Amen and amen and amen. God bless you.
Let's just give our Reverend another hand of applause as we appreciate him. He has flown in all the way from Kigali to make sure that he is here for this event today. What a blessing he is to us. Thank you very much, Reverend Ben Michael, for honoring us and blessing us with that wonderful prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, many of us are here because we know a gentleman that has authored a book, because we've heard about a book that has been authored. And so in your different capacities, I want to say once again, thank you for coming. Welcome. Protocol observed. We celebrate you. We appreciate you. And thank you for making the time to be with us here today. The book that we are launching today, I would like to believe that many of us have had an opportunity to see it while we were walking in. If you haven't, this is what the book looks like. Making Cooperatives Work, Optimizing Development Through Social Capital. I'm going to read a brief about the author, just to give us an insight into the person that has written this book. There's a lot more that can definitely be said about him. But in brief, this is what I would like to quickly tell us about him. Mr. Charles Kabuga, an adult educator by profession and co-operator by occupation, was born in 1940 in Kigezi district, southwestern Uganda. He initially trained as a grade 3 teacher at Shimoni Teachers Training College, served as a teacher in Kigezi High School between 1964 to 1965. I wonder how many of us were there by then. He joined the University of East Africa, Makerere University College, Uganda, in 1966 to 69, completing with an upper second class Bachelor's of Arts degree in History and Political Science. He worked at Makerere University's Center for Continuing Education. He later attained a master's degree in adult education between 1971 to 1972 at Harvard University, Washington, D.C., rising to the level of senior tutor lecturer on return to Makerere University. Mr. Kabuga's cooperative career started in 1977. Again, probably many of us were too young to even know what this means, but his career started in 1977 when he was appointed Education and Training Consultant at the International Cooperative Alliance, Regional Office in East Central and Southern Africa, based in Moshi, Tanzania. On return to Uganda in 1986, he was appointed General Secretary, CEO, of the Uganda Cooperative Alliance, the umbrella body of the cooperative movement in the country, and he retired in 1999. Following his retirement, at the end of 1999, he was appointed head of developing countries activities at the International Federation of Agricultural Producers, IFAP, in Paris, France, from 2000 to 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, that is just a brief about Mr. Charles Kabuga, the gentleman that has authored the book that has brought us all here today. I'm going to ask that we please give him a round of applause for the amazing, amazing work he has done. You can tell from the years that I was reading that he's not very young. A very wise man said that one of the richest places in the world is the grave, because many of the people die without actually applying themselves. And worse still, like we know the story in Africa, many of us don't get to put what we have learned, the experiences that we've acquired, into a book. Mr. Charles Kabuga has amassed a wealth of knowledge and experience in the cooperative sector. He has taken the initiative to put this information in books many times before, but this is the first time that he's officially launching a book. And when I look at this book, I think it is a legacy for him, it is a legacy for the cooperative movement. The first book, yes, we can clap to that. The first book that he participated in was a book on cooperatives, past, present, and future. He edited it along with a gentleman called Pius Batarinyebwa. He later wrote something on cooperative steel, cooperatives and socio-economic transformation in Ankole, past, present, and future. And besides this material and a few other publications, if you go on the internet, if you check around, there is hardly information on cooperatives. And yet when you read about cooperatives, you'll realize that cooperatives have been in Uganda and in the world for a very, very long time. So to have someone put all that information into a book is treasure for the people in the cooperative movement, for our communities, for Uganda, and for the world. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are here to launch a book that is going to change the lives of generations to come. And so I welcome you to this very special occasion. Our program today, like I indicated, will be read out briefly. We'll try to salvage the time. We've had our opening prayer. We'll have a panel discussion, and I'll be calling up the panelists in a short while. We'll then have remarks from our author, a keynote speech, the unveiling of the book, and signing of the book, and then we'll have the cake cutting and closing remarks. So thank you for bearing with us. We'll try and keep it brief and within the time we planned to work with. At this very moment, friends, we are going to get into a time where we get to listen to a group of people that have been carefully selected, carefully picked because of their experience, because of their exposure, because of their level of knowledge in the cooperative sector. Many of these people have, in one way or another, worked with cooperatives, influenced the cooperative world, and if we do not have as much knowledge and experience in this space, this is going to be a very good opportunity for us to learn, to experience more, and to acquire more knowledge. So I would like us, as I read the panelists who will be coming to the front, to warm our hands. Can we warm our hands? We are going to clap for them. We're going to be excited for them. We're going to welcome them with a loud cheer because they're going to educate us, right? Okay. So we have a panel of 4 people, 2 ladies and 2 gentlemen. It's a very, yes. We made sure that the diet was balanced. So it's, gender balance. And we'll get to hear from each of them. I won't be able to read the detail of their profile, but they'll get a moment to speak into who they are when they get to the forefront. So right now, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Mercy Tumukunde, even as she comes to our platform. Mercy is passionate and a dynamic cooperator by occupation with over 19 years experience, specializing in financial cooperatives or SACCOs management. She is also an advocate and a voice of women empowerment in the cooperative sector. Mercy is currently the Chief Executive Officer of STEDFIN, Uganda SACCO Limited, a SACCO for U.S. mission employees in Uganda and the retirees of the U.S. mission and their spouses and children. She's a consultant and trainer, a chairperson of the Africa Women in Cooperatives, and the CV is long. I'll tell you that if I read the whole of it, we may spend the night here. Welcome, Mercy. Our next panelist is a gentleman called Mr. Julius Kabugo. Mr. Julius Kabugo Mr. Julius Kabugo has immense experience in the financial sector. He's currently the chairperson of Harvest Multipurpose Cooperative. He has started a number of cooperatives, many of which he is still serving on their boards. He is an influencer in communities, causing transformation in the lives of young people, and we'll get to hear a lot more from him later on. Please welcome Mr. Julius Kabugo. Next, we'll get to see a lady called Mrs. Mona Muguma Sebuliba. Mrs. Mona is a strong and effective senior leader with a wealth of experience and a record of sustained excellence in the agribusiness financing. Mona works with ABI Finance and Development. She'll speak a little more into that and the difference. And she has done an amazing job in the financing sector for small sector farmers and other development entities. She has added value at board level, and she serves on numerous boards and committees. Welcome with me, Mrs. Mona Sebuliba. Finally, I would like us to put our hands together for Dr. Peter Chimboa, even as he comes. Dr. Peter Chimboa is commonly known as Dr. PK, and many of us may have interacted with him on different financial platforms or spaces, Twitter spaces, or some of the spaces he usually facilitates in the DFCU platforms or areas. He is the founder of the CEO Summit Uganda. It's in its 5th year now, public-private partnership in economic policy formulation and implementation, supporting Uganda's multiple recovery initiatives. He's the founding director, the CEO Apprenticeship Program. He's Uganda's premier sustainability center at the CEO Summit. He's a founder at the Uganda's premier sustainability center, the CEO Summit. He's also a founding director at adjacent faculty, Strathmore Business School. Friends, the CV is long. I will share it with you. So I would like to say for sure that the people that are seated in front of us are experienced. And even as we get into this sector, this segment, to discuss more on cooperatives, we are going to learn a lot from them and hear a lot from them. I'll ask them to get their microphones and start by, yes, checking that the microphones are working. Oh, sorry, I'll pass this. All right, I'm going to ask that we give them, I'm going to ask that we give them one more round of applause to warm up the room and appreciate them for saying yes to being here today. Our interaction is going to be twofold. I'll pick a few things from our book that has been authored by Mr. Charles Kabuga, and then from their experience, I'm going to invite them to just let us hear from them what their thoughts are and what their perspective is on these particular areas. But before I get into that segment, when you get a copy of the book, you'll notice that the book has a lot on cooperatives, right from the grassroots and evolution of cooperatives, how they started, the struggles they faced, and the different spaces that the cooperative movement in Uganda has been through. The author takes the time to take us through and educate us about the different categories of cooperatives. He tells us about the underpinnings of cooperatives and a lot more on what can be done to improve cooperatives, talks about the digital economy. So we won't be able to speak through many of these things. He even talks about the future of cooperatives. We won't speak into each and every one of these, but we thought that there are a few areas that our panelists could expound on. And I'm going to invite them at this point. to just take us on into the discussion. First of all, I'm going to ask Mr. Julius Kabugo, who has been in the cooperative space as well, to just tell us why cooperatives, why is it a big deal? Are they anything worth paying attention to? We have a whole book that has been written about cooperatives. Is it worth stopping people's time to come here and actually launch this book? I would like to believe yes, but let's get to hear from you.
Thank you so much, CEO of the fastest growing multi-purpose cooperative society in the world.
Yes, yes.
I first of all want to thank you so much, Mr. Kabuga, for putting this together. This is an incredible book that is going to help us a lot. We are just younger people that are starting out to promote what you've done, what you've served, what you've promoted, what you've loved so much and written about. And I want to assure you that the passion you have is not in vain, because it is transforming lives, as perhaps we'll hint on that along the way. Why cooperatives? I believe you can't succeed alone. For me, that's a principle. I know that we've all tried many times to do things on our own. We've run companies, we've founded them, and along the way you realize that you need that extra person to come along to support you. When you start a company, you start alone, but then you start getting some other individuals to join you. With cooperatives, you come together, do it together, run together, and grow together. That is the principle. And of course, I've just picked this quote from the Bible, Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. And I think that underpins the whole idea of working together, of cooperating, to move together. And when you go to countries that are successful, that are better than, I would say, Uganda, just our neighbor in Kenya, 63% of their population is in cooperatives. And that's why their economy is the biggest in East Africa. There's no secret about it. And if you've been to Kenya, you realize that almost everything that is working is because of cooperatives. Equity Bank was born out of cooperatives. They have a cooperative bank. 31% of their gross savings is coming from cooperatives. In the US, because we already say, well, that is East Africa, that is Uganda, tell us about the developed world. In the United States, 92 million people are in cooperatives. And I think that is a very big percentage of the US population. Why are they there? Because it's working. And their cooperatives are creating 2 million jobs every year, in addition to so many other things. Therefore, if we want to work, if we want to grow, if we want to be vibrant as a nation, this is the way to go. Cooperatives is the answer. The banks that are working are out of cooperatives. And actually, a couple of years ago, we know how our economy was vibrant. And when you check, you realize that it is again cooperatives that made us work, that got us to run, that got us to do things differently. So you cannot win if you're moving alone. Number two, focus on members, not profit. I think this is like a God. God is focusing on us, focusing on people, if you follow through the scriptures. Cooperatives are interested in the well-being of members. Companies are interested in the well-being of the owner, and that's the shareholders. That's the difference. So when you're running the cooperatives, you're always trying to find out how can we make our members better? How can we get them that next piece of land? How can we help them build a home? How can we get their children to school? How can we get them a better deal with the medical services in the country. You focus on people, and I think there's nothing as good as focusing on people. Dr. Muno said that if you focus on things that people want, you always get what you need. And that's what cooperatives do. They focus on things that people want, which is very important. The other is people work together for a common goal. When people come together, they work together. They identify a goal, they identify a target, and they run for it, and they want to achieve it. Imagine people working together for a common goal. In the Bible, we are aware of a group of people who came together to build a tower to reach that far. And I think God had to confuse them. Even God knew that when the people come together, they are unstoppable. Yeah. Even God himself knows that. If God knows that, I think we also now understand. The other is they are rooted in local communities. Because you come together as a community and you start working on an initiative together. And then you start developing together. You become friends. You now even know your financial situation. Because when one member doesn't save, you know. Cooperatives will tell you that your friend, your neighbor is actually struggling. That is if they don't save. But also when they have challenges, they'll come to you to share their challenges. So it is beyond money. It is not about money. It's about promoting relationships among individuals, but also focusing on those that matter to each one of us. I like cooperatives because they are limitless. You can do anything. When you start a real estate company, that's it, many times. When you start a bank, that's it. You're going to be a banking organization, a banking institution. With cooperatives, you do everything. You do real estate. Ours is doing real estate. So many people have bought land. You go into financial services, you give loans. So you can move into that direction. You can invest. Recently, we invested into government bonds. So you can even lend to government. Yeah, you can even lend to governments and others. So they are limitless. You're not limited to one thing. You can diversify as much as you can. And in the process, you're having impact on people, you're having impact on the economy. And perhaps, lastly, I would say, empowerment and social inclusion, financial inclusion. Many people, especially in the developed world, have not been given an opportunity to participate in the financial services of their countries. Obviously, because they can't get to banking halls, they can't own bank accounts. These days, you must have a national identity card, or number for that matter, to get a bank account. But with cooperatives, especially in the local communities, for as long as we know you, we know where you stay, we will allow you to save your money. We will also allow you to participate in the financial services. We will allow you to access a facility that can help you improve your economic situation. So cooperatives is the way. Cooperatives is the answer. Cooperatives is what we need. Those who have gone before us, those who have made it, those who are developed, those whose economies are blossoming, are doing well, they are doing so because of cooperatives. As a nation, as a world, this is what we need. I thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. Yes, we can give him a louder applause. I feel like cooperatives cannot be given enough justice in just a brief summary like that. And yet, with the way he has summarized it, we have no doubt that cooperatives are very important. Hence this book, Making Cooperatives Work. I think by the time we all leave this room, we should be asking the person that you're seated next to, maybe you should ask them now, are you part of a cooperative movement? Are you a cooperator? The people that are in cooperatives call themselves cooperators. So they're in circles. Yeah, circles are still cooperatives. They are a form of cooperatives. So yes, if you're belonging to one, that's a good thing. You're in the right space. I'm going to read, sorry, let me get your attention back. I see people that are not in cooperatives that are going to join very soon. I'm going to draw attention back to the panelists. Page 167 of our book, Making Cooperatives Work, talks about the different cooperatives and support to cooperatives and support to cooperative credit institutions, and how this is important and relevant in this day and age. The author in his book says, until the cooperatives have researched into alternative ways of raising capital, it will be in the interest of governments, especially of developing countries, to support cooperative credit institutions. This would not be strange, as Uganda would be borrowing a leaf from the way the Farm Credit System, FCS, in the United States of America gave birth to the Bank of Cooperatives. For 50 years, the federal government provided seed money, interest-free. That formed the capital base for the Farm Credit System that eventually gave birth to the core bank. After repaying the loan, government control was cut off, allowing the bank to become autonomous. Ordinarily, the members of a cooperative should be the ones to provide equity capital to finance the operations of their organizations. Unfortunately, no matter what amount of capital owner members contribute, it's rarely sufficient to finance needed investment requirements. In Uganda, just like in many other African countries, cooperatives dominate the agricultural sector, considered to be the backbone of the economy. The sector is dominated by smallholder farmers organized largely in agricultural marketing cooperatives that need adequate operational and investment capital to grow their business. Mrs. Mona Sebuliba, I know that ABI is very passionate about the smallholder farmers, the people that are doing the major work that gets us to have food on our tables. I just want you to speak into this and relate it to the cooperative movement and just share with us how it comes into play in terms of financing.
Thank you very much, Vasta, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. ABI is a 13-year-old organization set up by the governments of Uganda and Denmark, with largely Denmark providing the capital financing, the equity financing, and Uganda being a strategic partner with no actual money coming through, but a strategic partner. And indeed, our focus is to support agribusiness development in this country, with a special focus, as you've said, on smallholder farmers and agribusinesses. And one way we looked at going about this was, we are not a bank, we're not a financial institution, we don't have the reach, we were not set up to get to every corner of the country, but we thought to work strategically through implementing partners. So there are two arms to ABI. There's ABI Finance, whose main implementing partners are financial institutions. And so you could say we are a wholesale lender to these financial institutions for the purposes of lending to smallholder farmers and agribusinesses. So we work with the entire spectrum of financial institutions, right from the big commercial banks, Stanbic, Centenary Bank, Opportunity Bank, to the big microfinances like Brack Bank, all the way to strong entities like Finca, who is sponsoring this event, and a big round of applause to them. And all the way now to the tier 4s, mostly the SACCOs. And it was interesting to see how it all comes together in the book. You know, you have the producer organizations, SACCOs, and area cooperative unions. And the SACCOs are largely the way that these cooperatives get their financing. And so we thought, especially the tier 1s and the bigger institutions in which, say, Finca play and all, are very finite. But the ones that are being produced or being birthed every other day are SACCOs. Savings and credit cooperatives and cooperatives generally are being birthed every other day. So we ignore them at our own peril because they are closest to the smallholder farmers and indeed fledgling agribusinesses, micro and small. Medium and large tend to be taken care of by the big commercial banks and micro finance institutions. So that's why we work with the SACCOs and the cooperatives or their financing arms. Indeed, in the book, Mr. Kabuga mentions Uganda Central Cooperatives Financial Services. Indeed, it's a partner institution. But I just want to take us back to why we're a wholesale lender and why we dedicate money that is focused predominantly on agribusiness. The commercial banks, left to their own devices, even any financial institution, our chairman here also just said it. One, will want to lend money to government. It is not cumbersome, it's risk-free, the return is very good. They'll want to lend to things like real estate. The collateral, the asset you're financing is very tangible, it can be seen. They'll also want to lend for consumer finance, salary loans, you know, go get married, go buy a car, go improve your house, go, you know, it's very easy to finance those things. So, you know, everybody wants the least path to resistance. And so you find that in the pecking order of how banks allocate the deposits that we put in, agriculture would find itself around 5, 6, 7. Yet we say it is the most strategic sector. It is a reason we need to eat food. But the risk and the vagaries associated with agriculture are very heavy, so you can't blame them. It's a very high-risk sector with low returns. And I see, Chairman, I hate to, yeah. But agriculture, unfortunately, that's the nature of it. It is high risk, it is important, but there are low returns. So we needed a bit of soft financing. And that's how come the government of Denmark now comes and dedicates a pot of money that will be strictly for agribusiness lending. So the money that we lend to these institutions cannot be lent to any other purpose except lending to smallholder farmers and agribusinesses in general, along the entire value chain, right from production to value addition. So in the need to support cooperatives, we find that you cannot ignore them, or you ignore them to our own detriment. We won't be achieving our objectives. But over the last 13 years, one thing that we've seen, and indeed the chapter that you're reading from talks about the different forms and support that can be given to the cooperative movement. You can have an active, it can be active, it can be supportive. Supportive is when there's an enabling environment, which we tend to have, and active is when you're deep in the management, but then that's different from total control. So we have a blend of active and supportive management. But over the last 13 years, we've seen that the cooperatives in central and western Uganda started with a hand up, a leg up, by way of concessional financing to get on with the lending, technical assistance, you know, to put in place the relevant systems, processes, and just generally ensuring that you had the right policies, the right tools, moving from Excel to a management information system, you have the skills, you've got someone to develop the products, you now know how to lend, you know how to appraise a smallholder farmer or an agribusiness and do your due diligence, so they needed that support. What was happening to northern and eastern Uganda, as we might all be or should be aware of our history, we were going through quite a bit of civil unrest and rebellion for the better part of the 90s into the 2000s. So they lagged behind. And so we're seeing an imbalance right now where the cooperative movement or the SACCOs in central and western Uganda are really big and strong and have largely been weaned off quite a bit of this support. When I joined ABI 8 years ago, indeed, there was a lot of technical assistance still going in, but now you find that the AGMs themselves are talking about sending their own staff for training and what have you, and really what they want and are negotiating with us is well-priced money. They've moved away from, can you send us up? If you give them the training, they won't turn it away, but that's not their primary focus. And indeed, our attention also has shifted to northern and eastern Uganda because since we ushered in peace there needs to be support given, which can only first come in very concessionally. It has to be patient, it has to be in the form of equity in certain instances. As financiers, we even find that we sometimes have to sit on the boards of these entities and hopefully, slowly but surely and steadily, we're going to get them to the level of where we're seeing the ones in Western Uganda, Kasese, Hoima, Mbarara, Masaka, Kampala itself are. So we can't avoid supporting them, especially as they went through the history or the history that we've seen. And indeed, Mr. Kawuga talks about anyway in the 60s, there was quite a bit of turning off the cooperatives, and then they came back alive in the 90s. So we all needed a hand up, but some moved quicker than the others. So the idea is, even in our interventions, for success, for ABI Finance to register success, is if other investors, because of the groundwork that we've done, can come and add on to what we've done. Then we'll have, when we crowd in the private sector to come and take over commercializing or growing these circles, we'll have done our job.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Sabuliba. I don't want to dwell so much into that. Like she has rightly said, we have so many cooperatives, and many of them are in the agriculture sector. And for a very long time, we have known cooperatives to be a support system for the weaker group of people in our society. Our author, Mr. Kabuga, in his book, mentions that this is no longer the case. In chapter 15.8, he says, cooperatives are no longer for only the weaker in society. Mrs. Tumukunde Masi, I'm going to ask that you delve into that a bit. Do the corporates have to really consider cooperatives anymore? What does this mean when we say it's no longer for the weaker and the disadvantaged in society? What are we seeing? What are the trends?
Thank you. I would like to start by appreciating my grandfather, who is married my auntie.
Hey.
Yes. For writing this book. I was reading this book and I thought that the best gift that we can give our board members is maybe a copy of this book. Yeah? And I have been planning a training for my members, the members of my circle. I work with Stedfin Uganda Circle, and this is a circle for the U.S. mission employees in Uganda. And one of the things that we are working on is to train our members in cooperatives to appreciate the cooperative business model. And I think everything we look for is here in this book. So I thank you so much, and I applaud you. I am a daughter of a lay reader. Now, some of you who go to or who pray from the Anglican Church, Madam CEO, that is the least position in the Church of Uganda. And so I grew up in the rural area in a present district called Mitoma, where the deputy speaker comes from, by the way.
Hey.
Yeah. So I grew up seeing my father grow coffee. I am a product of cooperatives.
Wow.
I harvested coffee. I dried coffee. I pushed coffee on the bicycle to the cooperative union. I was in class, and my teachers would come chasing us for school fees. And I witnessed my father come with a receipt from the union, the warehouse receipt system. And they would let us study, because my father would assure them when they pay them at the union, he would pay school fees.
Wow.
Yes. So if it wasn't because of cooperatives, the current CEO of Stedfin Uganda Circle wouldn't be seated here. So I am a cooperator with passion.
Yes.
When I talk about cooperatives, sometimes I even become emotional. Because, and what really hurts me is that people don't know the potential of cooperatives. When you read this book, how
To make cooperatives.
it talks about cooperatives and when they started and the history of cooperatives. And right now, we are trying to bring the youth into circles and cooperatives and train them about circles. Why? Because they grew up knowing that if you want to be rich, you have to work in a bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to work in a bank, you have to work in Stanbic Bank, in DFCU, you know, if you want to be rich, you have to work there. One time I was flying to Nairobi for a conference about SACCOs, and I had my neighbor in the plane. And so we were talking about different things, and I told them about every time I sit near you, I'll preach to you about the SACCO and cooperatives. So I told her about cooperatives, and she was a Ugandan, and she said, when I get back to Uganda, I'm going to join a SACCO. And then she was like, but by the way, what do you do? I told her, I work with SACCOs. And he's like, are you serious? So this meeting you're going to is for SACCOs? Yes. Are you sure? I said, yes. Why? I think in Uganda we are still struggling with the image of cooperatives. And the Bible says in Hosea 4:6 that my people perish from lack of knowledge. If you read this book, you'll get knowledge about cooperatives. Friends, cooperatives are no longer small. They are not a small thing. Cooperatives, I think, cooperatives are big. Cooperatives are no longer for the unbankable. Cooperatives are no longer for the hard-to-reach areas. If you want to succeed in business, they say that you must be able to get a cheap source of capital and sell it at a slightly higher rate. Wow. I have seen SACCOs, the best source of cheap capital for financing businesses, for financing enterprises, and I have witnessed the growth of SACCOs. I've been in this industry for the last 20 years. I worked with Microfinance Support Center. I had an opportunity of supervising SACCOs in Uganda. I know rural SACCOs, I know institutional SACCOs, I know community SACCOs. I know how these SACCOs work. But let me tell you guys, in Uganda alone, we have SACCOs which are even bigger than some of the banks.
True.
Wazalendo is about 700 billion total asset base. URA SACCO is about 110 billion. Stedfin is about 70 billion. Go to Kenya. The biggest SACCO in Kenya is over close to 2 trillion.
HMC.
Guys,
someone is whispering HMC. We are 2 years. Let me throw in our
growing.
point.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, when I was in Makerere, I interacted, there's a SACCO called Franciscan Investment Cooperative, where I have been for the last 10 years when I moved to Stedfin. And I have seen this SACCO grow from 0 to about 20 billion now. We are dealing with professors. These are our members. Our members are lecturers. You know what I'm talking about? We have institutions like URA. They have a SACCO. All the staff of URA are serving within URA SACCO. And I'm very well reliably informed, by the way, that URA used to be one of the biggest clients of one of the biggest banks here in Uganda. But they formed their SACCO. Now they borrow from their institution. They don't go to the commercial bank. Of course, they are feeling the pinch. We have seen engineers run their SACCOs. We have seen human resource professionals run their SACCOs. UNRA, they have a SACCO. UMEME, talk about UN employees. Yes, the accountants of Uganda have their own SACCO. And this translates into really the governance of these SACCOs. I tell people that one of the things that I saw when I was supervising community SACCOs, they had a challenge of leadership, governance. But now these professional SACCOs are run by professionals. When I was in FIC, my board chairperson is the CEO of the accountants of Uganda, the ISPA. Now, you cannot play around with the balance sheet when you're dealing with such people, right? My vice chair was the best mathematician in Uganda. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about circles. I'm talking about cooperatives that are going to be the game changers of our economy. Yes. By the way. Why? Why? Because we have source. We have a source of cheap finance, right? We are going to finance our people. We are going to finance their businesses. And so what banks are doing now, like she said, you can no longer ignore us. So we have to just work with them. We have to partner in this journey so that we are able to grow together. You need... I don't know why. Yeah. Banks. Yeah, so allow me conclude by saying that we have to work together as development partners. Circles are a way to go. And in cooperatives, we have a philosophy which says that is people helping people, our local money for our local good. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say that when you are few, you can grow, but when you are many, you can grow big. Let us come together and embrace this movement. Thank you so much, Mr. Kabuga Charles. This is a really, really wonderful book. And I'm going to take a few copies for my board members because we need this. And of course, I know that as we grow, as we work in this economy, definitely we cannot forget the fact that we have the young people who are coming on board. We need to put in effort in including them in this movement. And once we do that, then we shall have many more of the Charles' writing books long after he has gone. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercy. I want to pick up on her concluding remarks. There is so much potential in cooperatives. Dr. PK, how do we secure the future of cooperatives? Our author goes ahead to give us a few pointers in chapter 16 on how to secure the future of cooperatives. But I'm going to ask that you lean in a little more on the governance challenges and how best we can address them, even as we get to the end of this session.
Thanks very much. First of all, I would like to thank you, Mr. Kabuga, for demonstrating extraordinary leadership in the field for which you had passion and a lot of persistence. Mr. Kabuga, you realize that great people like you do not seek to influence others, but you inspire them to be the best they can be. And that's what that book delivers. Your book is saying that we just have to see ourselves believe that what is necessary is actually possible. The solution for this country lies exactly in its problem. We have had the cooperatives flourish in this country, and it's very possible to have the cooperatives flourish. Cooperatives provide the foundation for capital mobilization. And without capital, there is no destiny. Because when you mobilize capital, you are now assured of your destiny. The ideas that are in the book, your book which you wrote, you are in a simple to read, but also in a scholarly fashion, with the case studies. Learned people do not talk by just stating what they think, but by quoting facts. You outline clearly that as Uganda evolves and develops, the issue of cooperatives surviving is a must. Kenya, the biggest economy in this region, has approximately 10 million members in the Cooperative Alliance of Kenya. 10 million. They have approximately 15,000 cooperatives with approximately 550,000 people employed, just like you have in Europe, 1.8 million people employed by cooperatives. You have actually 5 million pints of milk which are sold every day in the UK from cooperatives. And I want to come a little closer because what you are writing in your book is such a foundational document for us. I work in other environments myself, and I was working with one group in Nairobi, and I was working with individuals, about 7 or 8 of them. They were children like my sister here. They were children of cooperatives. These are the most entrepreneurial people East Africa has ever produced. They come from a small county, and they were brought up by a cooperative society. They are children of peasants, like my sister mentioned here. These 7 people, I will tell you, Mr. Kabuga, they own 35% of the entire GDP of Kenya. They are children of cooperatives. These very same people have, through their cooperatives, have attracted scholarships of the best universities in the world. They started with the 10. And some of the wonderful cooperative societies we have can very well do that. They started with 10 scholarships. They now have 400 scholarships every year to schools like Duke, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, and others. They were getting the scholarship for first degree. They have now for the second degree. They are studying business. They are studying engineering. Now, every year, 400. And that's the Kenyan economy. Now, you have got Tanzania. The Tanganyika, I think it's called Tanzania Federation of Cooperatives. They have also over 12,000 cooperatives. 12,000. They are employing over 680,000 employees. They have employees there. Now, all is not lost for Uganda. I have an example of Kabula. I think it's Kabula Cooperative. Most of you know it. 408 members. They are supplying 70,000 liters of milk to the processing plants in Kabula. And I think last year they exported 2.8 billion liters of milk and earned 13.4 million US dollars. Wow. So it's still possible. It's still possible to get this working. Where I come from, we are into issues of governance, and our moderators actually talk about governance. Governance is everything. That's leadership. The organization rises or falls according to the quality of leadership. In the cooperatives, the difference between circles and investment clubs, I have worked with one bank, myself and others, to set up 50,000 investment clubs in this country. 50,000. They're still growing. Wow. The difference between investment clubs and the cooperative is the cooperative is more about purpose than just money. There are foundational values and principles that go beyond money. There is a lot of social capital that is harnessed. So the productive synergies secured from members is also about social capital, financial capital, manufacturing capital, physical capital, all that comes later. So the cooperative, and the way you have put it in your book, you are raising new questions for Uganda's new economy. You are also raising the thinking and planning of government to another level of aspiration. You are surfacing very important distortions within the economy. If you look at agriculture, especially the agricultural value chain, everything is about a small person being supported by somebody bigger and a bigger person being supported by someone else going forward. So governance, especially the cooperative, ensures that there are systems, there are processes that will enable the cooperative to access credit, that will enable the cooperative to access learning and knowledge, that will enable the cooperative to become better than it was before. Why? Because they are coordinating together. Cooperative means coordination. Cooperative means coming together, working together, and staying together beyond the consideration of money. There's something higher that we look for in the cooperatives. So governance is about I care. My colleagues here, the big people who are leaders in the cooperatives and so on, they are providing the duty of care. They are providing the duty of loyalty to members, irrespective of circumstances. This book is coming out after COVID. COVID taught us one important lesson, that humanity issues are much more important than anything else. COVID kind of humbled us. Even some of my most brilliant colleagues, they were not aware that this crisis would occur. They were not even aware of the magnitude of the crisis and duration. Every one of us was humbled. The president of Uganda made an announcement. I don't know whether he understood well the depth of that statement. He says, tomorrow nobody moves except those with essential skills. Meaning those without essential skills, you stay home. And now, that's something about relevance. Mr. Kabuga, he's prepared a historic document saying that the human spirit and the need for us to come together and work together and survive together, whatever the crisis is, we can prevail. I like this book. I can't tell you where I'm going to tell people to buy it, but it's a major statement of what Uganda needs to do. Otherwise, we are going to be left behind. Rwanda has a much higher membership in cooperatives. Tanzania has a higher one. Kenya has a higher one. And these people are accessing the best institutions in the world using cooperatives. So let's get our heads together, build sufficient constitution, mark it with a lot of technology, because we have got artificial intelligence now. We are working around data. So governance is about having the right talent, the right attitude, the skills, and character of integrity. So let's have the right people in place, the right technology. We need data scientists. We need those who can work with the data and algorithms to be able to describe where we are, diagnose where we are, be able to predict, and be able to provide our rural-based economy, give it more reform with the technology. So governance and technology are very key going forward. Uganda cannot afford to lose. The major resource is coming together, staying together, working together, and that's it on basic principles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We can't appreciate this panel enough for the immense knowledge that they have shared. I don't want to go through the detail, but for those of you that have come in late, we looked at the case of cooperatives. Why cooperatives? Are they important? Are they relevant? Thank you, Mr. Julius Kabuga, our chairman, who gave us amazing information about that. We then looked at cooperatives and financing, especially the agribusiness sector. Thank you, Mrs. Mona Sebuliba, who also gave us a wealth of information and knowledge in that sector. And then we got to hear from Mrs. Masi Tumukunde, who also expounded on a number of things. And finally, Dr. Pike. I'm going to ask that before we leave, you just give us one parting shot. Not explained, just one thing that you want someone to leave this room remembering. I will ask Chairman Julius to go first.
Thank you. If you are not in a cooperative, you are the only one.
Thank you very much. If you're not in a cooperative, you're the only one. You're just being left behind, actually. Thank you.
I would just say that great things are done by a series of small things brought together. You have no alternative but to board the bus of cooperatives if you want to change the economy of Uganda. Thank you.
Wow.
Very similar to this, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go with many.
Wow. Thank you very much.
I'm worried about now what my colleagues have said. Anyway, the point is what Mr. Kabuga is saying, that, you know, in cooperatives, we must, first of all, there are shared problems. We must have combined action. That's what Kabuga is saying. He's saying really this whole thing is owned by us. Now, the quotation is, if we are going to be masters of our destiny, then we must be masters of the ideas that shape that destiny. Full stop.
Wow, thank you very much to our panelists. I'm going to ask us that we give them one round of applause even as they take their seats. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing in your knowledge. Thank you for educating us and adding value to this book launch. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been our panel that has been expounding on a couple of things that we are going to read about and experience in the book that has been written by our author, Making Cooperatives Work. At this juncture, without wasting so much of your time, I would like to ask our DJ to just briefly give us one song as I confirm one thing. We'll be reading a remark, and then we'll have our author give his remarks, and then we'll have our keynote speech right after that. Apt Media. All right, as the music takes its time, I'm going to ask that our ushers get refreshments for the rest of our people that have just walked in, even as I conclude something small. All right, thank you very much. We received apologies from a few people that could not make it today, and many of them have reached out to our author with their comments, their feedback, their appreciations and celebration of the author. However, I'm going to ask that you allow me read remarks from Professor Banojire, who thought he would be here with us today, but due to unavoidable circumstances has not been able to join us. He writes, Making Cooperatives Work, Optimizing Development Through Social Capital. Professor Banojire is a professor in economics at Bishop Stewart University in Mbarara, and he has written remarks to Mr. Charles Kabuga at his book launch. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I feel greatly honored to see all of you here this evening. I cannot take this magnanimous magnanimity, yes, oh gosh, for granted. Wow, I'm going to read more books. Yes, I cannot take this magnanimity, yeah, wow, and I repeated it, wow. Magnanimity for granted. Thank you for sacrificing your precious time to support this event. For the 40 or so years I have been with cooperatives in different capacities nationally and internationally, I have come to firmly believe in Tom Shadyack's philosophy that nature is an incredible cooperative. When things operate outside of that cooperative, they die off. It is a very simple rule that nature operates under. Making cooperatives work tells a story similar to that in the Bible. Psalms 118:22, about a stone which the builders rejected that became the cornerstone. Sorry, I'm told there were some edits to this. Please give me a minute. Sorry about that. Remarks on making cooperatives work by Mr. Charles Kabuga. Mr. Charles Kabuga has spent his entire professional life facilitating adults how to upgrade their knowledge and skills, either to access higher education or to manage and promote cooperatives, or to promote rural development through producers, organizations, diverse and rich experience together with one of the imagination has helped him produce his fertile to the most comprehensive book. Sorry about this. I think this too has an error. I'm going to ask that we move on to the next issue and we'll get this sorted first. My sincere apologies. We'll get that sorted. Ladies and gentlemen, can we erase the last few seconds? We do apologize for that. We'll get that cleared out before we read out the remarks. I think there's been a mix-up in the communication. But right now, I would like us to just stand up to stretch and welcome our author, even as he gives his remarks towards this book that is being launched today. Let's put our hands together and welcome Mr. Charles Kabuga.
gentlemen, please take your seat. Sorry for the mix-up, because after writing this book, my children said, leave it to us. I sat back and relaxed, and they're just driving me. So I am seeing things as new as you are seeing them. So I should take the opportunity to thank them. Good upbringing. But before I make my remarks, I want to introduce to you my brother, Honorable Bernard Olimba, who gave me the job as the General Secretary of Uganda Cooperative Alliance. Friendship is very expensive. He's blind, but we are of the same age. I'm just luckier. He drove all the way from Bari to come and attend this book launch. He calls me twice every week to check on me because he was my chairman, and we are proud of what we did because he was an honest, incorruptible, a man of integrity. And that is why in the book you will see what was done during his reign. So Bernard, my friend and brother, thank you for giving me the job and for making all the way from Bari to here. Friendship can be very expensive, but I treasure you. Distinguished guests, I had made a long speech with these papers, but I saw the panelists just using mobile and what. They may think that my ideas are archaic and therefore not worth emulating. But I am there. I am with you. So I will try to also be modern and not shuffle papers, but also either slide or whatever. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I feel greatly honored to see all of you here this evening. I cannot take this magnanimity, my daughter. For granted. You know, when the moderator came this far, I said, my God, she's making my speech, but you are making a speech of your father-in-law. You could have gone all the way and it is done. But I think people want to see me also. So thank you for the opportunity. So, thank you for sacrificing your precious time to support this event. For the 40 years or so, I have been in cooperatives in different capacities, nationally and internationally. I have been sold Tom Shadyac belief that, and I quote, nature is an incredible cooperative. When things operate outside that cooperative, they die off. It is a very simple rule that nature operates under. Making cooperative work tells a story similar to that in the Bible about a stone which the builders rejected that became the cornerstone. In a similar way, development economists have tended to ignore a cooperative development model by concentrating on the two orthodox models, namely capitalist and socialist models. Making cooperatives work makes the case that cooperative development model can no longer be ignored in development discourse. It is increasingly becoming a cornerstone for the much needed human-faced development. Unfortunately, many people who would wish to support the cooperative model lack sufficient knowledge to talk about it authoritatively. Cooperatives are usually mistaken for government parastatals, non-profit charitable organization, or any other ordinary business. So, firstly, making cooperatives work gives a bird's eye view of the roots and evolution of cooperatives worldwide with particular attention to Uganda, explaining what cooperatives are, where they have been, where they are headed, and what they are capable of achieving for people who use them as development vehicles. Secondly, the book explores the power of social capital. Social capital is the glue that holds society together through social relationships. It is built by people who wish to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps to liberate themselves from poverty and socioeconomic backwardness. Social capital is built at no government expense, but any government can leverage it to bring about development with the human face. Worldwide, cooperatives are such a huge social capital that is needed for transforming society. For example, cooperatives create employment. As Dr. Kimbo has said, it is said that those who wait for either the state or the capitalists to create jobs may likely die of old age before the jobs are created. Cooperatives promote decent work, especially worker cooperatives, because they give employees an opportunity of making decisions that affect them. Cooperatives contribute significantly to capital formation through the mobilization and investment of savings for adding physical assets to a country's economy, as has been ably explained by our distinguished panelists. Cooperatives generate wealth and equitably distribute that wealth. Cooperatives are also useful for fostering private initiatives and directing grassroots efforts towards development objectives at local, national, and international levels. Thirdly, making cooperatives work explains why and how such a transformative cooperative model got obscured. First, cooperatives were excluded from the curriculum, from school curriculum. That's denying learners the opportunity to develop mindsets based on cooperative values of self-help, mutual help, solidarity, and democracy early in their lives. Second, in spite of the fact that cooperative development model is the oldest and most enduring universities and university business schools concentrated on the capitalist and socialist models. Third, and in a related manner, universities and business schools excluded cooperatives from the mainstream economics and management theories. As such, as a result, the development of value-based managers and high-caliber intellectuals that would advocate the cooperative cause was throttled. Fourth, in the process of ideological rivalry between the two orthodox models, especially during the Cold War years, the cooperative development model was dwarfed. Although the capitalist model may seem to be in the ascendancy today, it is actually not working well. If it was, the capitalist United States of America would not be borrowing from the State Socialist People's Republic of China. Today, the hybrid of state socialism and the capitalist free market system adopted by China makes it a power, an economic power to contend with. Fourthly, and fortunately, the book comes at a time when Uganda's third National Development Plan, 2020-21, 2024-25, makes strong case for the role cooperatives ought to play in the development of our country. The plan lays out objectives and intervention measures for making this possible. Among these intervention measures, the plan recommends integrating cooperative education in the revised school curriculum and encouraging universities and university business schools to take interest in the efficacy of the cooperative development model. Unluckily, there is a dearth of relevant books on cooperatives in Uganda. Even though literature exists on various aspects of cooperative, it is scattered in publications of the ICA and ILO, in some books, in various reports, in some journals, in academic dissertations, which are kept in libraries, and of course, the internet. Regrettably, these sources are not readily available to the ordinary would-be users. Making cooperatives work will partly fill this lacuna by providing the essential cooperative content for use in implementing the recommendation made in the development plan. Fifthly, making cooperatives work makes the case that cooperatives are with us for the long haul. The failure of the orthodox models to bring about the much needed human faith development has precipitated a search for alternative development models. Notwithstanding the models being contemplated, the value-based cooperative model is difficult to dislodge because, first, the cooperative model remains the most readily available vehicle to confer corporate power to people who would otherwise be ripped off, acting as individuals in today's age of terrifying corporate power and globalization. Second, the cooperative model is what can create a social force from below to foster development that is based on the values of self-help, mutual help, democracy, equity, solidarity, that everyone is yearning for. Third, cooperatives are anchored in the belief that development must primarily be self-driven. As Mwalimu Julius Nyerere pointed out, no person can develop another. People can only develop themselves. Finally, the book peeps into the future of cooperatives and articulates what is needed to be done to increase their fortunes in the current fourth industrial revolution that is driven by the internet and the digital technology. This is important because, as Erika Hofer observed, quote, "In times of drastic change, it is the learners who will inherit the future. The learned usually find themselves equipped to live in a world that no longer exists." End of quote. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for supporting the launch. The panelists, thank you for a job well done. If I still had a job at the Alliance, I would recruit some of you. Yes, it is true. Because during my time with Bernard Olimba, this is when we recruited university professors, and people were wondering. But they did a good job, and it is documented in the book. And their names are there for posterity, for their children to know that they made a significant contribution to a model that we have no way of avoiding. I thank you.
If you having a desire, if you having a desire, this year might be your year. You see, I wanted to inspire you to do what you aspire, your desire. Somebody gonna marry this year, make the money happen this year. Let me tell you something about this year must be better than last year. It's your year, you know this is your year. It's your year, yeah. And this is in my year, till you automatic it's in my year.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the book we are about to unveil suffered numerous setbacks. I am sure that there was a force we needed to overcome to have this book out. The choice of our person to launch the book was divine. At the beginning, we said a prayer. The people you heard here are talking about the church. And our guest speaker is a churchman. So, are we in church? But remember, cooperatives were started in churches because the churches knew the value of this model and the way it would transform the worshippers. So, our chief guest is a leader of a movement of the gospel discipleship and mission that is dedicated to catalyzing spiritual, social, and economic renewal in their immediate communities, as a result, also the world. Through his teachings and guidance, Apostle Mose has helped people discover the leaders within them and empowered them to live out their faith in tangible ways that bring about real, lasting, and meaningful change. With unwavering commitment to this discipleship, he has inspired hundreds of individuals to take hold of the pen and add to the body of knowledge by writing books. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker, a true champion and a leader in this direction. Apostle Moses is accompanied by his wife, Pastor Mukisa, daughter Professor Baranga. So you are welcome, Apostle Moses. I cherish you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to appreciate the organizers of the event, some of whom are known to me. Thank you for the opportunity, and I want to thank our chief guest and author of this great book, our papa, to others, Jaja, Mr. Charles Kabuga. Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here today. And Mama, of course. Right. Now, I'll start by, now, we need to relax, okay? Yeah, I was saying that some people here, they are not relaxing. Let me tell you something interesting, then I'll tell you the more relevant things. Now, I just read that in Uganda, the people who are over 65 years old, do you know what percentage of people are over 65 years old in Uganda? Do you want to know? The people this side don't want to know the people who are over 65. It's 1.68%. Only 1.68% of Ugandans are over 65 years. Meanwhile, those who are below 16 are almost 50%. Now, you may say, they ask him to talk about cooperatives. What's his problem? You also, what's your problem? Now, do you know that people who are over 80 years old, what percentage? Like the author. Because as they were introducing, they told us he was born in 1940. That makes him 83. Do you know how many people are in that category? And of course, he has said his friend from Mombale is in the same category. Do the people on this side want to know? 0.4%. Now, for those who marginally passed your mathematics, it means out of every 250 Ugandans, you can only find one who is over 80. And this room is full, okay, not really full, but by comparison, is full of people with that level of wisdom and blessing. And so I want all those who are below 50 to stand up, and we appreciate our elders for a great work they have done, led by our author, Oh, yes. The Bible says that you shall rise up before the people who are gray-headed. So we owe it to them to appreciate them, and thank you so much. And thank you for having, can I ask the youngsters also come and say something on such an important occasion when we are launching such a momentous work. Please, young people, sit down. As I was scanning through the book, I realized this book is not... First of all, I kept asking myself, why was I asked to say something at this event? You know, when you feel so out of depth, up to now I'm still asking myself. But the author said they prayed, and then they said, this is the one. So it could only have been God, because I've been asking myself, what am I doing here? Saying something. So thank you so much. Now, the Bible teaches in Ecclesiastes 4 that two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. Are there any cooperators here? Yes. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls. Now you notice it doesn't say if he falls. When. The matter of falling is not... Okay, let me continue. Woe to him who is alone when he falls. What woe to the non-cooperators. Did you sense that passion of communication in our author and our panelists? For he has no one to help him up. Again, this is a bit of a tricky one, but I will still read it because it's in the text. If two lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can one be warm alone? Now, you are telling us cooperatives are beyond money. Am I allowed to come down here? Up to media. It's beyond money. Even that scripture is saying it is beyond money, because there's even things like warmth. The author told us about the value of friendships when he showed us his friend who was driven all the way from Bali to be here for this book launch. When you're 83, will your friends be, and not relatives? You know, we are too much into the whole relative thing. Because I know Mr. Kapuka is from Kabale, and his friend is from Mbale. Now in Ugandan terms, that's quite as far as you can go from one side to the other. Right? Now this place is cold, so if your neighbor is dozing, they are special. So he's teaching us it's beyond the money. It's beyond the finances. It's about life. You know, when you're young, you don't pay much attention to these things. But when you're in your 50s, 60s, now, you know, it's very hard to make new friends when you're in your 60s. Because first of all, you're only 1.65%. Huh? That you've gone to the rugby club to make new friends at 68. Better start cooperating now. Right, Mercy? She has taught us with passion. Wow. So, if two lie down, they will keep warm. Now, in verse 12, though one may be overpowered by another, There may be situations that will come to try and overpower you. There may be economic situations. There could be health situations. There could be social situations. I had someone over talking about political situations. Yeah, we don't talk about political situations. If you want to talk about political situations, go to another country. Anyway, there could be, weather, climatic. It says, though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him. And then it says a threefold cord is not easily broken. Basically what the writer is saying is life is going to be very difficult if you go at it alone. It doesn't work, including the economics. And I like the arguments that have been put forth that when we've neglected the middle way, the third way, and gone for either capitalism or socialism, we haven't found a good solution. Now, I want to tell you some stories of our longing attempt at this third way and the mistakes that we've made along the way, the wounds we carry, and why I wish this book had come out 20 years ago or 15. Once upon a time, we were young and passionate, and we thought we're gonna change the world. Nothing can stop us now. So a few of us friends came together to do life together. We had a name that I will not say because some people may watch this later and they may figure out I was talking about them. So we were a few couples, just married, and we were thinking the best way to protect our marriages is to do life together. Now, in that group was Mr. and Mrs. Kamara. Yeah, Ariho and Vasta Kamara were in that, one of the couples, plus my wife and I, and others that I will not talk about since they are not here. So we started meeting monthly to encourage one another. We started by calling our group 3Fs. Hey, did I say I was not going to say the name of the group? That wasn't the final name. So this was the first name. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah, 3Fs. So why? Because family, friends, finances. Yeah, that was it. No. It was faith, friends, finances. Huh? No, faith, family, finances. We were supposed to focus on our faith, to focus on, we use family for really marriage because we are just starting, and finances. And of course, everything was so nice as usually it is until the money part comes in. So the people say, finances is part of it. What are we waiting for? Of course. Let's start saving together. Every couple brings X amount every month. So we save and later we'll invest and we shall live happily ever after. Wow. I'm sure you're feeling the warmth already. Even though you got water instead of tea. You're feeling the warmth already, some of you. Now, so, when you're young and idealistic and you're making these plans, you forget that there is something called life. So life started happening. Now remember, we are doing equal saving. So this month, one couple doesn't save. Okay. I know they will recover. The next month, two couples don't save. Before you know it, things are interesting. Now, I would like to report that the Camaras were faithful savers. And I suspect I know where they got their diligence from. The draft of the book may have been there already anyway. So, and then one day, the crisis came. Now remember, we are saving to invest. We are all waiting for this big day when we are going to buy one of the buildings on Kampala Road. I shall not reveal how much we are saving in case you think our faith was too high. So one day, an SOS message comes through. Couple X is being evicted from their house for non-payment of rent. You can feel the tension. We are proposing that we use some of the money we've saved to rescue couple X. Now, you may not need too much like discernment and an outpouring of the Holy Spirit right now for you to realize that probably couple X was also one of those that were not putting their monthly savings. But now they are the ones to be rescued. Behold, there is a verse in the Bible which says, and there was war in heaven. Our beautiful dreams of buying buildings on Kampala Road ended right there because the group fell apart. And we had told each other, here's what we used to say: we'll take care of each other's children. If anything ever happens to any of us. Now, one group was saying, guys, we didn't start saving this money to bail out people. Why don't we collect money for this particular purpose? Let's figure it out. And another group is like, what kind of people are you? Are you even Christians? How can our friends be in dire straits and you're there saying we are going to collect money when we already have money in their account? And then, the word started crossing from one side to another. And usually what happens is that when your argument is not good enough, you raise the volume. And that usually is the end of all cooperation. Anyway, suffice it to say that the group no longer exists. Yeah. We didn't have... that what? Was the rent paid? Like all good stories, I cannot finish it. I want you to go thinking about all the different 5 possible scenarios that came out of whatever happened. So life went on. And then one day, I was like, no. I have read enough of the Bible to know that you can't make it alone. We must figure out how to invest together. So, being the eternal optimist that I am, I gathered another group of people. I said, we have to try again, something else. Now this one, we even started well. It even had a name, a good one. I'll not read the name because this thing may be recorded. We registered a company. We had all these ideas. How many shareholders? And, variable shareholding, because we had already learned from the other of equal shareholding doesn't work. And all of that. So we started. And our first project was buying Safaricom shares. Yeah, like Safaricom is coming to town, they will find us ready to take them on. Again, I'll not tell you how many shares we bought. I just want you to know that, So, of course, we buy. No research. Of course, the share price plummeted immediately after the IPO and didn't recover for many years. They used to send those checks, 20,000 shillings, dividend. No one picked them up. We're too annoyed. So life went on, but we really tried to keep our records clean and gathering money. Yeah. Now, at some point we had cost some money. Now, how many of you know that, anyway, someone said, success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. So one day, something called forex trading came to town. Anyone remembers online forex trading? Oh yes. Yeah, you must be below 20 not to know online forex trading. And the numbers presented, the scenarios were as brilliant. So we said, look, this is it. Jackpot time. So we got good amount of money, put it in the forex trading. Suffice it to say that a couple of months down, the whole thing collapsed. Now, thankfully there was some little money left. I think about 20 million, or thereabouts, maybe 14, about 14 million, something. And I don't even know how one of the people in the team convinced us, after we had lost the money in forex, now everyone is licking their wounds, we don't know the way forward. Again, buy the book. So someone convinces us to buy a plot of land in Njeru next to Ginger. It's like the last money we have on the account. Guys, we've been beaten. At least this money shouldn't stay here. Let's buy the land. We bought the land. And then afterwards, the battles began about the losses we had made. Because some people, they only invest to make profit. Yeah. When you're making profit, we are winning. This is a good investment club. Once there are losses, you guys are losing our money. Never mind, we all agreed that this was a good investment. So people wrote angry. Again, case is weak, raise the volume. A lot of things went on. That thing went south in a bad way. Now, remember, have I told you the other part of the story? There is a part I haven't told you. Maybe that's why you're looking at me in an interesting way. Let me tell you the other part of the story. All this is happening. I'm the pastor of the members. So every fallout affects friendships and the congregation. And it wasn't a big church. You know those small churches where everyone knows everyone? And everyone knows those guys refused to bail out the other guys. That's why the other guys left and went to the other church. Now, the fact that I'm still around and I'm still a pastor means I wasn't the one that needed to be bailed out in the rent fracas. I just want to put that out there because some people, they can accuse you of things that they hear in part. They say, those guys didn't pay rent. They failed the investment club. No, it wasn't me. Yeah. In fact, I want to put on record that Kamara and I were on one side of that argument. And you can only imagine which side we were on. But, yeah. So, now, scenario 2. we've lost money in Forex. Ah. And you know, some people, when they know you're a pastor, they think they can wallop you, abuse you, and you can't do anything because you're what? A pastor. So, my sister, Mercy, whose dad is a leader, I can relate. So, I took all the beatings for that one and decided, okay, one day, history will prove me what? Right. Now, miracle of miracles. No, not the way you're thinking. The Forex money was lost properly. Like the rest of you had invested in Forex. You lost properly. That was a season of proper losing. It wasn't, we lost some money, but no. You lost everything. That was, yeah, all of that is education, by the way. School fees. So now this piece of land we bought in Njero, a factory, an industry buys the next property and they want it to add to theirs to make, to expand. So they kept, harassing us. We refused to sell until they gave us an irresistible offer of about 200 million. Now, I think if it's at 14 million, they give you 200. That's when we knew cash in now. So we cashed in. Now, we have been running the thing informally. Forex fell. Everyone is lost interest. Suddenly, there is money on the account. Have you ever heard of Uganda revenue? We immediately attracted interest, keen interest, from one of the leading organizations in the nation. I will not tell you how that story ended because it could have legal implications, but it ended somehow. Then I was like, but there must be a way. So I said, okay. I was going to say something that I realized we were in church, like they said. So to come watch with all those things that didn't work, let's start something new. Let's start something new that is based at the church with all the church members. We have agreed. We already have two lost experiences. Surely that should be enough to make this third one success. We are going to succeed. So we started something called the Harvest Investment Club. I come from a church called Worship Harvest. So it has a lot of harvest things in it. Harvest Investment Club. You're from that church? Is there anyone here from that church? Oh, what a blessing. So we're like, this thing of alone does not work. Even though we have failed twice, let's try again. So we start Harvest Investment Club. Again, the meetings. Meanwhile, with every attempt, my reputation as a pastor, with every attempt and failure, my reputation is going to the dogs, but I'm like, I'm going to try again. Yeah, because somehow I could see the future. That if the members work together, we could help each other. So we start Harvest Investment Club. It wasn't too long until we ran into management issues, problems, and then it got... Yeah, but that one went a little bit far. We pushed, I think we even had like 500 million. But people are not saving regularly. Administration is very difficult because we are depending on volunteer admins, the committee. Everyone is looking at me. I'm like, but you people, it's an investment club for members. Why are you looking at me? The church doesn't have any money in it. Anyway, you are the one who brought the idea. It's on you. So we tried that thing. I was like, Lord, once bitten, twice shy, thrice, I don't know what. Is there something for thrice? And then it was 2019, is it? Or 2020? 2019. They're about end of 2019. I realized we're about to have another implosion. We need, something must give. So I called my friend Julius Kabugo. I said, Julius Kabugo, it looks like everything you touch turns to gold. Can you touch this thing a little bit? So he came in and said, the first thing we are going to do is do what all wise people do. Find someone who has done it successfully and then follow them. So he said, okay, who has done it successfully? Why Save from Watoto? Yeah? So we talked to the Why Save people. They are very eager to help us. They help us. We start. And now that they say, forget the club. Club things are not going to work. You need a cooperative. And we had tried to start a cooperative before and failed. That's why we ended up with a club. They said, no, we will take you to whoever you need to go to. We will handhold you, get the signatures, everything. You must first have a cooperative. Forget the investment club. We said, okay, cooperative it is, let's go. So Julius led the way. Long processes. I didn't know cooperatives were that much more detailed than investment clubs. You must have this committee, then this committee, then that committee, then the district or cooperatives officer has to be there, the meetings, everything. I was like, I'm used to things moving much faster than this. This thing is so slow. I said, okay. I've handed over. I wasn't done leading the investment club, but I was like, finally, I'm happy to not even feature anywhere. So, Mr. Kabugo, that slow thing started moving. And that was 2020. And today, 3 years later, it has grown. It's growing. We have 1,900 members. We are still trying to convince them that the idea is to save monthly. But it's growing a little bit, you know. We went from the 500 million to about 7 billion. I heard Wazalendo had 700. I don't know who to talk to. But, so, I just thought I would come and tell you some stories of when you see something that can work, or you have the idea, you have the passion, you have the vision, but you don't have the knowledge. And you keep falling on your face for lack of knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge. So now HMC seems headed somewhere. They are determined to be the biggest in the country at some point. I don't know, you need to explain to the soldiers why yours is bigger than theirs eventually. But that has been the journey. And now it seems to be working. Members are buying land, building houses, starting businesses, borrowing cheap capital. Okay, affordable. I think cheap starts to sound like. And to say it's not for people who are badly off. It's for anyone who wants to go far. And I started thinking about because I think the minimum saving in Harvest Investment Club is 100,000. Rather, Harvest Cooperative is 100,000. And I think every month you're having savings of more than 500 million. Now, Worship Harvest is still a small church with just 88 branches and a few thousand members. But we plan to plant 3,000 churches, which maybe may have like 1 million members. What happens when you have 1 million members saving 100,000 a month? I think you can do a little bit more or a lot more than when you have your 100K. Your 100K, what can you do? Yeah. Oh, I didn't tell you another story. So one time, I was trained as an architect. Even though I'm a pastor, I didn't go to pastoring school. I'm trying to do that now. It's very difficult. So as an architect, I was like, my area is buildings. That's where I know how to make money. So my wife and I buy a small piece of land and start building 3 townhouses. By the time we came out of the foundations and we calculated the cost versus the money we were saving, we realized we were going in about 35 years to finish. So, of course, you shouldn't be a rocket scientist to understand by that time, yeah, by the time you finish, by the time you finish, even the houses you found around, they were since broken and they've put up high risers. You're still building your thing. So we said, this is not going to work. Let's devolve this into a company where we get other like-minded people and we put our money together, save every month and build. And that's how we started Future Housing and Space, and our dream is to build 10,000 housing units. Don't ask me how many we've built. We are like at 11 anyway. But I realized that if it's going to take you 20 years to build one rental unit, get 20 people with the same level of conviction and you build it in 1 year. And then the 19 years you are collecting the rent as opposed to the money stuck in the bricks. So it's been all those kinds of attempts to say there must be a better way out of our economic situations than everyone is saving alone, making mistakes, and not going anywhere. And I think it is cooperatives. I've seen it work with Harvest Multipurpose Cooperative, Wise Save, Franciscan Investment Cooperative. I will not tell you whether I'm a member or not, among others. But this is the way. And the beautiful thing is now we have the book. Making cooperatives work. Because cooperative you have, does it work? I've been trying to cooperate for many years and it hasn't worked. But finally there is a book to say, go reference page this, page that, and do it the right way and you'll succeed. So it's such a great honor for me and for us to be here today to witness the birthing of a tool that I believe is going to be used by God to deliver many people out of poverty as they cooperate in getting ourselves out of poverty. So, yeah. And I think we are going to unveil the book. But before we do that, my wife and I thought we would at least buy it. These books at 50,000. So we wanted to buy 20 copies. And so I don't know if there are other people who are going to buy in bulk before we unveil. You know the book is already good, but I need, I know you paid your 100K for the book and the tea, but you're like, I will also buy 10, 25, and other such. And I'm going to ask one of the organizers to join me, Mr. Either Vasta is the one who was dressed for the occasion. And she's also the CEO of the Harvest Multipurpose Cooperative. So we would like to hand that over. Now, I'm taking offers. You can give it to me now, cash, or later. We know Kamara's number. Anyone? Hey, you guys, you came for book launch, eh? You ask, what do they do at a book launch? They launch. How do they launch? Do you know why you didn't go to the bookstore to get your one copy for 50K? There's a reason you're here, so give me some offers. So we have 20 books in here. And yes, 5 books from the Biemanzes. Thank you. Someone is writing down. And when I say books, you may not take the books. Me, I just want the cash, then you tell me whether the books can even stay and be, yeah. So when I say books, don't be thinking, but I came with a border. How will I take my 50 books? I just want the cash, right? So I have 20 books, 5 books. I need more books, especially from a certain section of the room. They know themselves. Here, oh, I thought someone was bringing books. Mercy, you said you were going to buy for your board. 10 copies. Thank you so much. Any more takers? We are taking books in bulk. Cavendish University, 10 copies. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Yes. 20 copies, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, where Mzee worked. I'm waiting to hear from HMC like in a major way. Oh, my goodness. You know, there is when you're like, it's going to be major when it comes. I think that's why they are delaying to tell us. Their hands are up. How many hands are up? Only one. Okay, let's take it. $20 books from HMC for our teams and members. Awesome. Thank you, HMC. 20 copies. Okay, I was thinking, am I hearing 200 or 20? But I think I had 20. Yeah, more buyers. There's a certain section which, hey, you are doing the math. A book is 50,000. So when you do 10, that's 500,000. If you do 20, that's 1 million. If you do 50, you may have, 50 is 2.5. Okay. Yes. 5 from Mr. Ivan Musaja. Thank you so much. I have a hand. Yes, sir. Hey, 10 copies, of which 5 are going to Worship Harvest Nalia Choir, worship team. Thank you so much, sir. What's your name, sir? Arubaruho family. Thank you so much. I'm taking more copies. You're so kind. Yes. Hey, the chairperson of URA Staff Circle. My goodness. We are so blessed tonight. 20 copies, URA Staff Circle. I saw some hands here. 5 copies from the Okulos. Thank you. 5 copies in Subugas. 5 copies Kawesas. You know, Mr. Headmaster is waiting to talk, but you know, they wait for the bursars to finish all the noise and director of studies. By the time that, yes. 10 copies, Harvest Institute. Yes. Thank you. Investors Club. 5 copies, Investors Club. Headmaster, what's going on? Okay, I've kakanated. Any more? What a shock. Mr. Kakaire, pronounce yourself on this matter. How many? 5 copies. The Kakaires. There are some people, they were clapping when I was speaking, but now I need more books. More books. Yes, sir. One copy DFC Acacia Avenue branch? Yes. 4 copies to schools? For 4 different schools? Yes, sir. We'll tell you where to take 10 copies. Thank you so much. We are so honored. Yeah. Worship. Did I say my wife and I, we gave how many? Mr. and Mrs. Capture. Yeah. Now, we took how many copies from Kisa's 10? Did we say 10? 20. 20. Worship Harvest, 50 copies. 50? No, 100 copies. Yeah. And the team here will decide where the 100 copies go. But for us, we'll just buy the books. All right. Do we have any more? Oh, yes. Brilliant. Thank you so much. 6 copies. DFCU has very many clubs. Now they have 7 copies. Thank you. What's the name, ma'am? My name is Miranda. Thank you so much. All right. How many copies do we have about? A few. Quite a number. Yeah, I think at least I'm sure we have at least 200 copies gone. That's a book launch. Otherwise, if we all go to Aristoc tomorrow, 5 copies. Agnes Kamgisha, 5 copies. Thank you so much. Can we appreciate? There's a hand. Yes. Yes. Two copies going to Kabare to Buzungu. Cooperative. Thank you so much. It's a great honor. Do I have offers or we are closing? Offers, do I have? Oh, yes. I've seen a hand. Yes, sir. 10 copies. Uncle Herbert, 10 copies. Thank you so much. Awesome. You people, this book is becoming a bestseller on the launch day. Uncle Stone, 10 copies. Now going forward, if your name doesn't start with Uncle, yeah, we are now in the Uncle category. Uncle Herbert, 10 copies. Uncle Stone, 10 copies. Uncle. Do I have another uncle? Uncle Dixon. Uncle. Aunties, uncles and aunties, it is our turn now. Uncles and aunties. Wow. Yes. Four. This is Uncle who? Alfred. Thank you. 4 more copies. He already has 1. Thank you. I think, Mr. Kamara, are you around? We have a hand. Every time I'm about to make the altar call, we have a hand. Yes. Benedict and Sophie. 5. 2 books for your bosses. Yeah. Parish model. bosses, they are going to get the book. Yes. Wow. Brilliant. We are at 300, huh? 304. We have already sold by cash or promissory 304 copies. Yeah, by the way, I've been part of people authoring books, many books, and there are not many that sell 300 on the day of the launch. So this is a very extraordinary book. Yeah. Cash, 5 copies from the Othienos. Othienos, 5 copies. Those who are watching us online, you can text Kamara and tell us your number of copies. Anchor or not, we will check them. Thank you. I'm going to invite Mr. Ariho Kamara to come and guide us in the next part. I think we are going to unveil the book. Yes. Even though your natural disposition is not excitement, you are now permitted to be excited about this amazing book. Trying to make more room that side.
The lady I'm standing with is my queen. We've been married for 53 years. We are a golden couple with golden children and friends. There are so many friends of mine, and I don't know who to. If I start mentioning names, I can run into problems. Is it understandable? And I don't want to. But allow me to recognize Honorable Shemu Bagine, my son-in-law, and these young granddaughters of mine who've been buying copies, the Mirandas and what, my grandchildren. Thank you for your support. And thank you, Uganda Cooperative Alliance. Without it, I would have no basis. It's 23 years since I retired. But the organization is still going, which means I had successful successors. And that is how you define success. Thank you. DC Nanta Kwanzwire, Vice Chancellor wa Kavenshi, and my bosom brother Jackson Kadyarugokwe. Abandi na hariho na muramu wanje Christine nanta kwanzwire by'abaramu no binyima kandi hariho mukamwana wanje, the wife of the late Dr. Professor Kabumba. Kabumba was my son, I was his uncle. So shame ino kazogo agura utago kuzachizinga. Thank you. Can't thank you enough. You are tremendous people. The Kabuchus, they know I am, well, yeah, okay.
Thank you so much, Mzee. Why don't we all stand as we unveil this book? Yes. So, Father, we thank you for this book. Thank you for the impact it's going to have on the generations to come as we seek to cooperate and pull ourselves out of poverty. Thank you for Mr. Kabuga, who has authored this book. Thank you that it will go many years, many places, many countries, many generations, renewing people's minds. Thank you because it is not your will for people to live in poverty, but it is your will for people to prosper and to help one another. And may you help us, even using this book, to do that. In Jesus' name, amen. So, I've never done this before, so those who have, you can tell us. What do they say at this point? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you very much. I'll just request the author to sign, to come and take the next photo moment. Then we'll have Mr. Wogunene. Then we'll have Mr. Wogunene. After that photo moment, we'll have Mr. Asimwe from UCA come to take a picture with Mr. and Mrs. Mosemakweri. Both of them have been with UCA, and so they'll take a photo moment with our author and with the book that has just been unveiled. So we have Mr. Asimwe going to pause for the photo moment. After Mr. Asimwe, I'm going to ask our panelists to move close for the photo moment with the author. Thank you very much. Our panelists, are they in the room? I will also ask Uncle Shame, Mr. and Mrs. Bagane to come and take a picture right after that. I'll ask our panelists to please move fast so we redeem time. Dr. PK had another event. Unfortunately, he's not with us, but he's well represented by the rest of the panelists. Thank you. Just come and join in the picture together. All right, that's our photo moment with our panelists for the day. After our panelists, we'll have Mr. and Mrs. Bagane. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's our picture with Mr. Bagane, Mr. and Mrs. Bagane. Right after that, I'm going to invite Uncle Stone to come closer for the photo moment. I see people who are getting into the picture. Family ties. We'll allow them 1 second for the photo moment. For the rest of us, we'll have an opportunity at the end to take pictures. So don't worry, we'll have a photo moment with the author and the book. And finally, oh no, before finally, I'm going to invite the family, Mr. Kabuga's family, the rest of the family, the children, to prepare. But in the meantime, L4 family, please come forward. L4 family, please come for the photo moment. If we can move fast. You're the second last group. Let the rest of the Kabuga family join in. I don't see Uncle Buga. Okay, he's there. Nesta. Perfect. All right. We'll have our parents, Auntie Christine. No. All right, this is the last photo moment. I'm going to ask the people that are bringing the cake to please move closer, and we'll get into the last segment of the day. The rest of us will have an opportunity to take a picture together. All right, we are going to ask allow for a few more pictures, Mr. Kario Rugokwe. Let me just invite all the elders above 60 who have not taken a picture yet. The elders above 60, Adiedi Awoli, the Rubanis. And finally, I'm going to ask that the network leaders of Worship Harvest prepare to take the last picture with our author. If you're above 60 and you've not had a photo moment, All right, network leaders of Worship Harvest Ministries. Just take a picture. All right, our final picture coming up. Thank you. Thank you to our network leaders. These are the people that lead the Worship Harvest Ministries movement in different capacities, leading numerous people in different locations. Worship Harvest Ministries currently has 88 locations and is still growing, and so they pastor and mentor many other people. If anything, we can clap for the 100 copies that they have bought. This is the representation of the Worship Harvest Ministries. Thank you very much. I would like to allow the team set the table for the cake cutting, and as we move the book, I'll let the author rest his feet slightly. All right, to cut the cake, I'm going to ask our keynote speaker to just come up again. He's going to cut the cake along with the Queen and the author. So Mr. and Mrs. Mukisa and Mr. and Mrs. Kabuga will be marking the last part of our book launch today by cutting a beautiful cake to mark a significant celebration of a book that is being launched. The cake is being tilted, I guess, for the camera people. The cake has been made by the lady who is holding it at the moment. That's Nescare. They make amazing cakes for weddings, events, do amazing decoration as well. They are the people behind the beautification of this place. All right, we are going to count up to 10. Count down from 10. 10. Are we together? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Congratulations! Thank you very much, Apostle Mose and Pastor Ari. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Kabuga, for an amazing evening.
God has sent me to I have a message for you. God has sent me to you. Listen, them say, them tell you, say you can never be the one.
All right, we have come to the end of our night. I want to say thank you very much for your time with us. Thank you very much for witnessing this very important occasion in the life of our father, in the life of many of us that are in the cooperative world. We will be having snacks at the end, but even as we do that, a number of us already have our books. We will have a minute or an opportunity to get the author to sign the book. So if you have your book, we will give you an opportunity to come forward and actually have the book signed in due time. We would like to make special mention of the people that have made this day special and made this day possible. A number of them have been on the flyers, and many of us have had the opportunity to look at it. But let me take this opportunity, first of all, to say thank you to everyone that is in this room. As you saw on the flyers, there was a fee to eat. The mere fact that you came to the room, you believe in the author, you believe in the book. So I just want us to put our hands together and appreciate every person in the room for making the time and making this day a great success. I'd like to make special mention of Finca, that was a significant sponsor of this event. Thank you for coming through. You did not hesitate. You quickly came on board. Would like to make mention of DFCU Bank. Thank you for sponsoring this event. You have made it colorful. You have added life to it. Would like to also mention Uganda Cooperative Alliance. They're represented in the room. Thank you very much for sponsoring this book launch. Nomad Advertising, thank you very much. They did a lot of work putting the book together and even financially. And finally, would like to appreciate Harvest Multipurpose Cooperative as well for your sponsorship and making this possible. Today marks the beginning of a purchase of a book that is going to transform people's lives, communities, and generations. And so I'd like to encourage you to please go ahead and share the information you have learned. Please buy a book for someone. The book will be available in a restock. We will make sure that it's also available online for those of you that would like to buy it online. But if you cannot access any of those options, the numbers that have been provided, the payment options, we can call one of those numbers and someone will be able to get a book to you, but we'll also find ways of availing you with numbers either of the author or the children or someone that will be able to get a book to you. Is that fair enough? I know people are eating and there's less talking, especially on this side, which is a good thing. I would like to conclude today by saying thank you very much for making time. I hope we all had a good time. Did we have a good time? Did we learn something new? Are we going to tell someone about making cooperatives work? All right, I'm going to ask us to put our hands together one more time and celebrate God and appreciate God for a wonderful evening. And celebrate and appreciate our author, Mr. Charles Kabuga, the reason we are here today. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Please feel free to stay around and interact tomorrow.